How do they do it? Why do they do it? Riding and crashing and riding and winning and always faster and faster.
Well, welcome back everybody to With Antone MotoGP 2025. Well, the first MotoGP test of 2026 has begun. Well, it kind of begun by not beginning at all. The entire morning season was cancelled because the track was wet. Now, look, you go to Valencia in November. What are you going to expect? You're heading into winter. But what really surprised me is that Dorna and Liberty, you know we had the big floods in Valencia, but there was no equipment at the circuit to dry the track. There's pictures, I've got pictures of guys, with air blowers and brooms and even cloths trying to dry the track out. So the morning session was lost. Dorna, Liberty, you can do better than that. Come on. The whole world's watching and this is what we get. But once the track finally dried, we got a little bit of action. The lights went green, so we got a proper look at the first of the 2026 grid out on the track. And right away, I think it was Raul Fernandez, I should say. He topped the timesheets, but he did that surprisingly on a bike without any changes. Just ahead of Marco Bezzecchi, and of course, Alex Marquez was snapping at their heels on the Gresini 2025 Ducati, which is a 2026 hybrid. We'll talk a little bit more about Ducati coming up. Aldeguer, I should say, strong in fourth, Costa inside the top five, and KTM showing some early speed with Vinales and Binder both up there as well. On the other side, we had big debuts. Toprak Razgatlıoğlu, it was his first day, public day on the Yamaha V4, and he finished 18th, but he put together over 50 laps as he adapts. And one thing I want to say about a master stroke in terms of brand recognition, passing that number 7 across that Fernandez used in the wildcard is a stroke of genius by Sofuoglu, Toprak's manager. It means that we're used to seeing the blue bike with the number 7 on it, and now we can continue to see that bike. So I think it was a master stroke. Diogo Moreira, the reigning Moto2 champion, he debuted, and it was almost a full race distance for him, and he got to understand the bike and understand what the challenge of MotoGP is going to be. Okay, so three-time world champ Toprak Razgatlıoğlu, it's a mouthful if I can say it. He finally got on that V4 Pramac publicly, the first time we could see him. And it's one of the most anticipated moves in MotoGP for a long time. I mean, he's coming there as a rookie. And for me, the thing that stood out was his great attitude. He did over 50 laps, as I said. And I put that up against the negative kind of solemn Fabioquartararo. Now, when we didn't have the track open, Fabio's walking around in his street gear, laughing and carry on. He's not wearing the branded material. And I just don't get it. Toprak's attitude I loved. He got faster and faster throughout the day. It was funny to see Fabio and Rins start off on the inline 4. They had some gremlins, electronics, they always say that. But basically, I think it was Fabio's quickest lap was done on the inline 4. Rins, I'm not too sure what's happening there, but I haven't been sure with Rins for quite a while. And my take on it is that Jack Miller running towards the rear of the grid, exactly the same as last year's test, this time of year. And he's the master of trying to get the electronics sorted, so forget his lap times, because I think he's really working hard on trying to get enough information to improve those electronics. Now, there wasn't enough V4 engines going around for Fernandez to ride, so he had to sit the test out. And I understand that they're testing 2 chassis, and one of the chassis, it's been mixed between the 2 teams. So we'll see how that goes. And it looks to me like it's going to be late mid-season, I guess, before they get this bike sorted. Whether that's enough for Fabio and his demands, let's wait and see. But Yamaha are also going to be out on the track today, again over there in Valencia, subject to the weather. Okay, so let's jump across the pit box and look at Ducati. Now, I don't believe that's the bike that they're going to ride in 26, that what we saw. We saw Bulliger actually ended up finishing in 8th, being faster than what Pecco is. Now, Pecco crashed trying to do his hot lap. Tardozzi feels Pecco is back, but let's face it, this whole Pecco thing, it's been a big distraction. If you watched my last episode, and I appreciate the comments on that, it's going to take some time. Now, it was nice to see those retro liveries celebrating their history, and it was also nice to see Aldeguer, who, riding the GP25, put it in the top 4. So I think that there's something there to do, but it's time for Pecco and his wife and his dog to take the break. And let's see. And I hope he actually seeks out and gets some professional sports psychology assistance and lets him, move forward. So, we can stop talking about 24, 25, 26, because Pecco's the one that's got to deal with it. And he's the only one that can deal with that. Now, everybody else has got to move forward. Pecco's got to be on that bus. He's got to move forward. Otherwise, the opportunities are going to dry up for 27. And remember what we said, the 27 market will start very early. There's rumours in the paddock that the whole grid for 27 might be signed and done before we even enter into April. So that's something that we need to have a look at. So it's been a strange season for Ducati. No red points, major points since Motegi, and it's time for them to reset. Now, Gigi and marcmarquez, they're going to be the saviours, so let's see what happens, and I'm sure Gigi's got something in his magic bag that will come out and really assist for the bike they're going to ride in 2026. So crossing Honda, it was the Moreira show. I mean, it was solid, and it's just so nice to see the smiles on his face. He gets off the bike and he'd imagine how fast it goes, and he can't believe how extreme it was. You think Valencia's tight on a Moto2 bike, imagine what it would be like on a MotoGP. Now, look, he finished up in 21st, but, it's just time on the bike. Zarco made a couple of comments. He said that there was nothing crazy bad or super positive about the bike. Progression will be slow, but they are really moving towards what the aero updates will be in Sepang. Luca Cecchinolo from LCR said that apparently Moreira had visited the Rossi ranch last year and he blew everybody away on the track. Apparently he's got a history of winning on everything, be it dirt track, be it super motard, or be it whatever it is. So I'm very interested to see. And I did hear also HRC have opened an office in Milan. So let's wait and see. But this whole European transfer is a big thing for HRC. Okay, the success of the late season and probably last night's test was Aprilia. They come away as the leading brand. Fernandez publicly admitted he had no updates. He was just maximising what he had. So he put it into the quickest time, followed by Bez. It was nice to see Jorgemartin out on the bike. Finished around 16th. He did over 50 laps. But for Aprilia, it's all about aero. You saw them with more of a Ducati boxed style front end, similar to KTM. And the comments around the pits seem to be you can make more difference now with aero than you can with maybe a chassis or a swing arm. So everything is really, really focusing on that. Interesting to hear from Fabiano Stirlinki, the technical boss, because he really started to get into a little bit of depth about the remote garage. He was saying that they're using the remote garage so much. I mean, this was really born out of COVID, if you remember that. There was less personnel were allowed at the track, and this got mastered by Ducati. But he says that the remote garage where the technicians sit off track back in the main office, because those technicians can be more focused, they're not distracted by what's happening at the track, and they can take the data from the black box and actually use this in their active simulations for aero. So they can test and do all this at the same time. And of course, they're seeking more top speed. Bez wants more top speed. So this is going to have to come from electronics, but we all know top speed comes from one thing, and that's traction. So it was exciting to hear what Fabiano had to say about that. Finally, we've got KTM. Again, it was all about aero for KTM. Nothing else seemed to come forward. Acosta spoke post the session in his interview, and he highlighted that it was all about aero. He put it into fifth. Vinales was impressive for me. He returning from that long shoulder injury, which is a bugger to recover from. In fact, sometimes your shoulder's done. It doesn't ever get better. But that's a story for another time, perhaps. But Binder was in ninth, and so 3 in the top 10 for KTM. Bastianini, well, let's face it, his time with KTM and maybe even on the grid is coming to an end. I mean, who's going to take Bastianini? I'm not sure what the step forward is there. And Richard Coleman, who's the new team principal, get used to remembering that name. He started to talk about him and Gunther Steiner. Of course, they take over from the 31st. Well, basically, they're in charge from now that Hervé stepped aside. They're going to take a more active role in what and who rides the bike. So they're going to be more active in selecting the riders in his interview, he stated, whereas KTM has probably already done that. And of course, the challenge will be what bikes will they ride in 27? Will it be KTM? Will it be Ducati? Will it be something else? So despite the chaos and the late start to the session and seeing the crew armed with leaf blowers, we actually got a fascinating look into what 2026 is actually going to bring us, and more importantly, the excitement that we will see in the final 1000cc MotoGP season. Trackhouse Aprilia and Aprilia steal the show with Fernandez, who was on top. And Ducati looks steady, although perhaps not as dominant as we've become used to seeing with Ducati. And Aprilia ends the season on top with a strange maturity that you don't associate with Aprilia, the way that they're working, the methodical approach, and it's something it's a pleasure to see. KTM leaves Valencia with good pace from Acosta and Vinales, but Yamaha has begun its journey with the V4 engine. And Toprak and Moreira, of course, great to see those two rookies out on the track. So day one of 2026, the whole season is to follow. Sepang is coming up. It's going to be very exciting to see that. But, what did you feel? I don't know if you participated in watching it at all, but what you've read, what do you feel about the test? Do you think that they're a good indicator for what's to come? What about the times, the debuts, and what do you think about the position that some of the teams have finished 2025 in and are heading to 2026? So if you've enjoyed today, then give it a like, give it a thumbs up, or share the video across with someone else who's into MotoGP. And I want to thank everybody this season for watching with Antone MotoGP. It's been my pleasure to present every round this year, including the tests. We've got some special stuff coming up for the off season, so stay tuned for that. But I wanted to thank everybody, and we'll see you again real soon. Okay, bye for now.